and welcome to Talking Shop, a conversation with educational leaders. My name is Mike Randolph, and I'm the proud principal of the Leesburg High School, and I am joined by our co-host, Martin Avtuck, the proud principal of Middleburg High School. Martin, how are you doing today?
Good, Mike. You guys got school tomorrow? We're filming on Wednesday before the hurricanes come in. You guys got school tomorrow?
We do not have school tomorrow, but we do have school on Friday. So what about you guys?
Canceled Thursday and Friday for us. It's been kind of all around the area, so we're close it down today, and then there's nothing. They stop everything at 6, and then we go back on Friday morning and see how everything looks, and hopefully have a game on Friday night. Don't want to have to rearrange all that stuff, but
yes, we had to do some rearranging.
Undefeated, right, Martin? Undefeated. Is that correct?
So is Leesburg, though. So
No, my gosh.
We're 4-1. Yeah. So we're 4-1. Unfortunately, we lost to Vanguard.
Who beat y'all? Was it? I was going to
Vanguard.
say, was it a college team or something?
It was Vanguard. We lost a tough district game to Vanguard. We're hoping to see them in the playoffs, but we will actually be in your area next week. So with the Storms, we were scheduled to play Tallahassee Godby next week, but they had to cancel their game this week. So we are going to be playing Ponte Vedra next Thursday. So we'll be in the area, and then we will be touring the University of North Florida next Friday, which is a great segue to our guest today, which
Awesome.
is Dr. Matthew Olson, the professor of leadership and executive director of the University of North Florida Taylor Leadership Institute. Dr. Olson, how are you doing today?
Mike, I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We are super excited for this episode of Talking Shop. So I'll let Martin kick us off.
So first and foremost, I want to thank you, Dr. Olson. I was in a tough spot a few years ago where I wasn't really happy with the position I was in and where I was going, and you ended up working with us with the Lassiter. Was it Lassiter then, or was it at UNF?
I think it was at UNF, but
so we ended up working together, and your work really helped guide me in the right direction, and I owe a big debt of gratitude to you. Appreciate you. I'm glad we get to work together now. So I'm super excited about today's episode, and then just kind of walk us through how you are in the position you're at now.
sure. And it's so fun. I love bragging about you, Martin, and all your success. So, and I'm glad you brought up the Lassinger Center. So my journey started. I came down to Florida, University of Florida. I was a school administrator in the Boston Public Schools. And I was getting my PhD at UF and started working with the Lassinger Center and started enjoying the Florida winters. And we were supposed to head back up, and both my wife and I were part of the Boston Public Schools. And once you've had one winter in Florida, it's tough to leave and go anywhere else. So I started working with school leaders all over the state in Miami, Miami-Dade, Broward County, Pinellas County. And I just had such just an amazing time working with school leaders, especially school leaders that I saw such great potential. And leadership development and confidence building really became that catalyst for my work. And I haven't stopped since. It's been, 14, 15 years doing this. And UNF stole me away from UF back in 2015. And we still collaborate with UF, but our Taylor Leadership Institute has really become, really one of the top programs in the country for developing leaders in a variety of fields, whether it be athletics, business, nonprofits. But my heart is really with developing school leaders. That's why I love talking with you guys today, and really pouring into school leaders, and because I know all the things that you're going through, and I love to celebrate all the impact that you're making on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
What kind of work are you doing now with like what school districts are you working with? What are you guys concentrating on?
We like to really go where people need us. Recently, we've seen a big focus towards our rural schools. So we collaborate with the NEFEC school districts. I think it's 16 school districts in the region here in Northeast Florida. And we love working with them, great organization, but we still have partnerships with Clay County, Flagler County, even some of the former principals that have moved to different places that I've worked with. folks all over the country, and I love staying connected to them because I love seeing the impact and have those refreshers where they just call me up, and someone joked that I'm like the principal whisperer with like, hey, I've had a tough week. Can you just talk to me for 15 minutes on my drive home? And it could be something as simple as, all right, name me a student that has, been positively impacted by you, or give me a teacher that you helped with a certain situation, and really getting people to focus back on the flowers, not the weeds, because, there's a lot of challenges in our day, especially in the post-COVID era and what education looks like. And it's hard to look for those successes because there's so many days where you're putting out fires. So really getting in that mindset of being almost on call for the school districts, the school principals I work with, and being there for them. And my work with them doesn't stop. I mean, once a contract stops or a partnership with a district stops, once you're in my family, it's almost like a fraternity, like you're in for good. That's why, Martin, you have my cell phone, and it could be like, hey, come watch this. Look at our football team. We're undefeated, or look at where our school is ranked now. And it's so fun to see because what's so powerful, it works every time. Once people realize their greatness, it's so easy to see those outcomes.
Wow, there's so much to dive into there. Listen, I need you down here in Lake County, I'll tell you. But I love that you talked about focus on the flowers.
I'll be down in a heartbeat.
Yes, sir. But, just focusing on the flowers and not the weeds, and really focusing on the good. When you focus on the good gets better. And I love that you really talked about that. I love that you talked about the importance of building confidence in leaders as well. Can you talk about just why that's so important for great leaders to be confident leaders as well, and how can they develop that confidence?
Well, it really goes down to the mindset, whether it be the Olympic athletes I work with, all the way down to the, nonprofit leaders. Before anyone can believe in you, you have to believe in yourself and have a mindset of I can, and there's optimism and hope in the organization I'm leading. And even if you're facing challenges, whether it be, in the post-COVID era, testing era, you name it, you as leaders have to be the face of the organization. And if you're pointing out the flaws or the obstacles or that we don't have or we can't meetings, that when you're meeting with your faculty, it's going to perpetuate a culture of we can't. And for you as a leader, you better be focusing on those successes. And it was startling. I started doing this program called Give Your Best Your Best when we found out that school principals were spending 50% of their day in the bottom 10% of their teachers. And what was happening is that so many of the principals were focusing on putting out the fires and the challenges and the struggling teachers and really pouring into that. And they were missing the opportunity to empower and celebrate their rockstar teachers and the ones that were making an impact. And it would be draining to the principals. It would be draining to the culture of the faculty. So we really want to switch that mindset to say, okay, you better be celebrating those rock stars. You better be celebrating those top teachers and saying, hey, what are you doing that's working? And let's expand upon it, rather than I'm going to try to fix someone who may not even be here by the end of the year. And you try to coach and support, but at the end of the day, if you're spending half of your day with the bottom 10%, your drive home, your nights are spent, drained and losing energy. But if I say, hey, I have two rock stars, Mike and Martin are crushing it. They're doing amazing things. Let me go sit in their classroom, or let me go have them share out some positive data. It comes back to me and I'm like, all right, there are good things. And you perform better when you're positive. I mean, there's so much research around, your optimism, your performance, your outcomes. If you have a positive culture within your school and you're celebrating the good, and and you may never get 100%. And I told Martin, 10% might not ever believe in you as a leader, but your most important thing is those rock stars, because guess what? If you don't take care of them, make them feel valued, they're going to leave. Because the principal down the street is sending them emails saying, yeah, exactly. The other district, the other schools, your stars have options.
100%.
So what a great
come
retention
over
strategy.
to the Berg, Leesburg.
Listen, all roads lead to Leesburg. So, I mean, we all have, I mean, recruiting is so important, but
I love it.
retention is so important as well. And I love that you really talked about like giving your
Hmm.
best to your best because so many times we focus on the lower quartile teachers. We focus on, we don't focus on our elite and really driving our good to being great as well. So, spending that time focusing on your good and great teachers, leaders, is so important for an organization. Martin, I'm going to turn it over to you for another question.
Talk about leading with joy, or start with happy. I'm sorry, start with happy. It was something the first time I read it, just a one pager, was back when I was an assistant principal. Talk about how that started and what it entails.
Sure. So I'll tell you the difference, the big contrast. So at the university, I have to publish books and articles and all those things. That's our world. No one reads this. Our big textbooks that cost like $300 a piece. But they do read this, the Start with Happy. I actually wrote it with a doc student of mine. We had done a conference out in Vegas, and met with one of the largest school superintendents in the country. He's now out in LA, and he said, no one's going to sit, no one's going to read a textbook. No one's going to sit through 75 PowerPoint slides, but give me a one pager on how you could transform my schools. And that's where this one pager started. It's now in 6 colleges of business, downloaded 100,000 times, and it's very simple. We actually started doing this with the schools that we work with, and something as simple as called the parking lot rule became something we started and we implemented in 2 districts here in Northeast Florida. And guess what? It caused retention to increase, teacher attendance to increase, and outcomes not only with the teachers but also the support staff. I mean, talk about a challenging job. Bus drivers were
Oh
leaving
man.
this district in droves. I mean, talk about, you're not only do you have to drive a bus moving forward, but you have, 40 kids behind you committing felonies while you're facing the other direction. So, that's a challenging job. They were losing staff all the time. And when you start this parking lot rule every day, before you leave, you're going to share one thing positive that came from today, one student data positive interaction with, one success. I don't care if it's an email you had, a phone call, great interaction with a colleague. And that's the last thing you leave with. So you can actually leave and go home and be with your family. Go home and, you live in the Sunshine State, you better go see that sunshine.
Mhm.
So we started the parking lot rule, and then they had to respond every Friday with, okay, tell me about your week. What were your gains? What were your so within this Start with Happy article, we have, 4 or 5 things that you can do, and it doesn't, and my favorite number as a former school administrator is 0. Costs you nothing. You don't have to buy gift cards or
Mhm.
swag or, teacher appreciation, $400 lunches. Like, this costs nothing. And I promise you, and I hope you guys can share this with the audience. And the parking lot rule is one of the 4, and I promise you, if you do that, just try one of these things. The other one is the influencers. Each week send a positive email to one of your colleagues, and without them asking. Your meetings better not be informational. Your meetings better be sharing information around your outcomes. This is what we accomplished. This is how, here's a student testimonial. Here's a success story. Here's a great email from a parent, and then celebrating the people that helped you get there. Because what you want to do, rather than spend all your time at the bottom 10%, you want to try to move the middle of your team, your teaching staff, towards that rock star status. And I know those aren't technical terms, but that's what you want to try to move, because it's hard to move really poor teachers to, and the best within a short period of time you're going to get is average. What you want to try to do is move that middle to that excellent stage. And by celebrating those meetings, we actually saw this in the Ritz-Carlton. We have a partnership with the Ritz where their meetings were not, hey, Martin and Mike, we have this rehearsal here, we have that band practice there. It is, hey, I love what I saw, Martin, with your interaction with that family. Or Mike, I love the branding and the constant celebration of your school. That matters, because you can't replicate people, but you can replicate habits. So if you celebrate the habits of these people, it reduces a lot of that animosity, where sometimes people say, hey, why can't you be more like Mike? But if I celebrate the habits that Mike's doing, Everyone can do it. Don't tell me you can't make an extra positive phone call to families, or don't tell me you can't spend 15 minutes after school or during lunch and interacting with students. So those things are really um, quick and easy things you can do, and that's why that one pager, outsells all the books that I think only my mother and my wife have purchased. So
We'll share that on all our social media outlets as well.
Yes,
I
we'll
think
make
it's
sure to share
important
that.
we do this. I try and do this with my kids, like my kids that are my high flyers in the office, but like we've got a couple kids that this year that we celebrated for attendance, or like we had a citizen of the week
love it.
who hasn't necessarily been the greatest student, but has done a couple things. So try and celebrate those things as well. So go ahead, Mike. You get the next question.
I like that you talked about celebrating the habits, not just the people. So another one of the strategies that you talked about, and I want to give a huge shout out to my assistant principal who actually brought this to our school this year, were the weekly success meetings. So can you talk about what those weekly success
Love it.
meetings look like and the importance of those weekly success meetings?
Sure, because you think of, and 100 years ago, I started my career in the Boston Public Schools, and it was, I faculty meetings, the staff meetings, and PD was more of checking a box and really just sharing of information rather than coming together as a group. A B is celebrating our why. Because this is a challenging job, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But if you know your why, you can handle any how. So these meetings, these weekly success meetings, if you're going in every day, every time you're meeting with, here's a success story around parent, and make it a theme base. So this month, our focus is, parent interaction. Another month it could be, collaborating with your colleagues. Another month might be, great teaching and learning success stories. How are you showing gains for your students and not just waiting till the end of the year? And every teacher comes with it. You have them share out with the person next to them, so they don't feel like you don't have to have them stand up. Some people are very, not used to celebrating themselves, and you get in that habit. Here's the other thing too. One of the great things you can do as a leader, it can also help you in your how do we find the people that aren't meeting our standards? If you have someone that's coming, we have these weekly success meetings, and they're, 3 out of 4 weeks, they're like,
Yep.
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
you know, I try my best, but I'm really busy, or I'm overwhelmed that I can't reach out to parents, or, I'm not seeing anything. Then it could be, then it can help inform that conversation. So it's not always you being the gotcha person, and it could be them having that, okay, this is what you've shared, this is what you're coming with, like, tell me what you doing really well here, or what brings you joy in this work. And usually the people that aren't doing well aren't finding joy in it, so you can help them, in that conversation, say, hey, I want you to be happy in life and in this work. So if this isn't a great fit in terms of grade level, or what you're doing here, let me help you. That's what great leaders do, help you, find significance and value in what we're doing. And that could be a great way to help take the pressure off of you and that clipboard walking in, to say, okay, show me your impact.
Tell us about. I've had the opportunity to visit there with our athletic leadership council and a few of our kids. Talk about Camp Osprey. That was a really awesome experience I got to be a part of, and I got to have my daughter there too, so it was cool. So talk about it.
So that actually started when I was getting my doctorate at UF. Back in the glory days of Florida football, I saw some of the football players going to an area school, and they were reading to kids, and it was like Pied Piper. The kids were all following them, trying to get autographs. And I said, I need to harness this. I need to harness this working with athletes and college students out in these schools. And rather than just making a service project or like a one-time thing, I went to the college students and say, what do you need? And they said, we need leadership training. We're getting all this content in college. We're getting all our topics and, specific content related to our majors, but I'm still having confidence issues or time management or goal setting. So we have our college students go through leadership training, and then we bring high school students, middle school students, even elementary school students up to a college campus, because many of them, many students have never been to a college campus. And we connect the college students with our area K through 12 students and focus on leadership, not content. They're not tutoring. They're literally saying, "Hey, Martin, give me a goal that you have," or "Hey, Mike, tell me three things about you tell me why you're phenomenal." And getting our students into focusing on their leadership skills. But then by having it on a college campus, all the research shows that K through 12 students that partake in a college visit are more likely to attend college because they see students that look like them, maybe from the same high
And Mike
school
does
or
a
a school
great job
district.
of that.
So, and it was so powerful to see it, especially our athletes. That's such a, employers look for athletes. I don't care whatever sport you're playing. I don't care if it's, cheer, golf, football, whatever it may be, because our athletes, they know how to work well with others, time management, goal setting, they know how to win and lose and still keep going. So I think that's one of the nice things. We target a lot of student athletes to be in our program, and they've really been the ones that have absolutely shined. Ooh, I think the idea of leadership is a never-ending process is intimidating for some people. But for all of us, and hopefully everyone listening to this, it's the idea of you're not a finished product. When you think back when you first all started in the field of education and looking back and how you've grown as a person, as a leader, as someone who's empowered others. So I think leadership, one of the biggest transformations we've gone through is the shift from leadership as a position to leadership as influence. And it started with we started collaborating with the folks at Franklin Covey, and I use one of their quotes from Dr. Covey to really reshape our whole institute. That leadership is communicating to people their worth and value so clearly that they see it in themselves. So it really takes the leadership role of moving away from you and my position, my titles, my accolades to who's better because of your words and action, who is better because of you influencing and empowering them and celebrating them. Because if I say to you, Mike, you're changing lives at Leesburg, and I tell you over and over again, eventually you start to believe it. And, especially if it's someone from, the opinion from someone that you value and trust. Getting the mindset for all of us too is leadership is not an end of the year thing or we do in PD over the summer. It's right now, so I don't care if you had the worst day in your classroom, going through your halls in your school, give me one person who's better because of you. And if you're about to leave school and you can't think of one person, you get on your phone, you text that one teacher, that one family, that one kid, you say, hey, you did a great job today. And so I think leadership is who's better today because of your words and actions. And it's not, how many podcasts you can watch, it's action. And I think all the study of leadership is important. I can bombard all you guys all day with great books to read and all that good stuff. So I want people to follow me on all the social media stuff, LinkedIn, and I'll bombard you with that. But here's my challenge. That's step one. Step two is actually do something about it. And you better be able to think of someone at the end of the day who's better because of your actions every day. Don't wait till a faculty meeting and I know one thing I love that Martin does, seeing what he does with social media, it is that constant positive branding and celebration of not only the students at Middleburg High, the staff, but also the brand. It's getting those kids happy and proud to step foot on that campus. And I think that is such an amazing thing that you've been able to do in a short period of time. And I knew it was going to happen when you took over. I'm just telling you that because you had it, you had all the ingredients, and now it's so powerful to see once you start creating that culture, like we're stepping onto the campus of someplace special, the kids start to see it. And I don't even need to ask you if you to send me this, but I know the attendance for students and teachers, it's up. I know the discipline referrals are down because you're creating, this is someplace special and even sacred if you want to call it that, go to that level. And I think that really starts with leadership.
I think it's something like my wife gives me a hard time. She calls me insatiable and this and that. And I was like, listen, these kids deserve it. Like they deserve and the adults deserve it. Like we're going to try and, we made it 2 years in a row, but we're going to try and get better. there's a kid out there that needs help. There's an adult out there that needs help. So I think it's important. And you talked about the positivity, like put out the social media. It was so funny because today, I usually do all my social media on Fridays for our students of the week. And I was ready to mail it in on the drive in. I was like, you know what? I am not, we're doing it. We're doing all that. We're going to get it figured out. I texted my person that makes all my certificates. And I was like, we are going to, no storm's going to slow us down. We got to get it out there and business is business. Another thing, I had it was funny because I had another principal reach out and ask, like, all right, this is going on. You got all these Facebook groups out there. They focus on every single little thing you do as a school or as a principal or as a leader. And it was funny because he's like, what, just asking, what would you do with this? How would you respond? And I'm like, don't. Just keep pumping out positivity. Keep putting more stuff out there. And eventually that's going to go away and they're going to find the next thing. But just like, that's why Mike and I know both I do most 99% of my social media is me for us, because it's important that you control that narrative, you put it out there, and then, we're celebrating kids, and then, they expect that. They want the finger point picture. They want to be on 180 days of joy. But that's the culture you create just by continuing and do it. So, okay, I got a question for you, Dr. Olson. You inspire. Go ahead. 100%.
Yeah. And you will get a naysayer. You will get people say, I don't like this, or, I'm not a fan, or, is this too much? But, here's the thing. You tell your story or someone else will. And if it's not someone you would go to advice for, I wouldn't lose sleep over their opinion. And your job is to celebrate and empower your staff and students, period. And if you could do that in a positive way through social media, do it, because they'll have the rest of their lives after they graduate to have people try to pick them apart. You better be there being their best cheerleader, and it's free. Zero.
Yep. Don't worry about the cheap seats. They don't matter. Dr. Olson, you inspire so many in what you do, and I love following you on social media. Who are your go-to follows, like social media, podcasts? Like who do you admire leadership wise?
Oh goodness. There's so many, and I know I'm going to miss some folks, but John Gordon we're going to start collaborating with him. We actually have his daughter as one of our keynote speakers coming up, and we use his books in a lot of my graduate classes. His idea of positivity and his work with sport teams, and it's so funny. He actually stole the parking lot role. He has a different name for it, but he I tease him all the time about some of the things. There's so much overlap, but his work is really powerful and it's groundbreaking because it ruffled so many feathers in the traditional leadership world. Oh, that's, leadership light, that's fluff, but when you look at the outcomes, we started doing this positivity stuff in one school district, and it's so nice to see those outcomes when you can say to a district, we saved $112,000 in 1 year in sub pay for one department in a year. So the naysayers, the easiest way to prove them wrong is to prove them wrong. And with those outcomes. So John Gordon. Yeah, no, it's listen, I have so many sayings, that it's not bragging if it's true too. You better on social media, in the newsletters, like, here's our impact report. You all better be putting out there all the different outcomes that you have, all the different, let people know, if it's, and especially if it's students, let them know the numbers. And we put this out all the time, and it, does it ruffle some feathers because there's a lot, but I want to be a lot for my students. I want to be a lot for, the people that we're charged with helping to improve their lives. Another, Drew Dudley does some great work around that everyday leadership mindset. Jonathan Catherman, a great author out of North Carolina, does work around some resources for parents in this day and age where, after COVID, empowering students and getting them off their phones is a challenge. But there's so many great resources out there. I think the big thing for people is to never stop growing as a leader around that mindset of looking for opportunities to celebrate who you are, because it's hard in your daily routine in all that you're navigating as principal. You are everything from coach, therapist, academic director, transportation director. Like, you should all have like 14 different hats, but looking for the ways that you're celebrating the people that you're impacting, but also have a folder on your computer that says, all right, here's positive email, here's positive outcomes. Look at all the different variables in the data that can show even the small incremental gains, because you all both know you've done great things at your schools, but you look at when you first started and the gains you've made. How many years did it take? It doesn't happen overnight. So really looking for ways to celebrate yourself.
So seven? I think 7 years as a principal. 8, yeah. It's definitely not an overnight success story. And there's those times where we doubt ourselves and imposter syndrome takes over. We've talked about that before on the podcast, where you think you're doing a terrible job.
It goes back to one of the quotes that I think I stole from Dr. Covey. Instead of, looking at ways to try to fit in things with your day, and your calendars are never empty, really not prioritizing your schedule, but really schedule your priorities. Find out what brings you the most joy in your day. And if your joy is interacting with teachers and seeing their growth as in their instruction and pedagogy, or if your joy is connecting with students, whether it be on athletic teams in the morning. I remember I had a perfect example. Dr. Earl Johnson, he was a principal in Flagler County. I think he's down in Volusia now. One of the greatest guys you can ever imagine. We were about to embark on a huge grant and partnership, and I went to meet him, and we're in his office, and the bell rang. He jumped up, and I thought, my old school principal instincts, went off, and I'm like, oh my God, is there emergencies? Is there a fight in the cafeteria?
No.
He jumped up. He said, I have to go. I'll be right back. And he went out, and I followed him because I'm not going to sit there in an office by myself. And he went out, and he's like, I'm sorry, but I have to go meet my students. And he would meet them every morning, greet them, fist bumps, high fives, all those different things every morning like clockwork. And even though he had meetings with me and he had emails and people were calling, that was his priority. So he scheduled that. He made it a part of, and he made those interactions with students every day, and he did not miss that. So when it comes to, you better not be spending your day responding to emails when students are there and need you to support them. You better not be in there looking at, memos from the district and all. If you're in your office all day, you're missing an opportunity to actually lead. So I think that's one of the most powerful things when it comes to leadership is really scheduling your priorities. And if you're finding that you're starting to get drained, I would text principals. They're like, I'm not feeling. I'm like, get down into a classroom. Elementary school principal. I'm like, go to a kindergarten classroom. I'm like, if you're having a bad day after sitting in the kindergarten and playing, or go out. And I remember one principal in one of the districts. I'm like, go play kickball outside. I'm like, I don't care if it's 5 minutes, but really getting, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And if all you're doing is the clerical work and the have to work, you're going to miss out on the get to opportunities because you didn't get into this field to write great emails or be on top of district mandates. And yeah, you have to do those during your day, but you better not miss out on opportunities to connect with students, teachers, make them feel valued, because that's your why. You're not in it for just the management of this. You want to lead people, make them feel great to be on your campus. So if you're starting to get drained, go get your energy back. It's almost like going to go out and get a Starbucks or a cappuccino or a Red Bull. Go out there and do what makes you happy. If there are parents in the office waiting to talk to them, make those connections. Ask them, hey, what does your kid love about this school? Seek it out. Sometimes if you're not getting it from external people, some people said, well, I never hear from my superintendent. I'm like, okay, go out to your parents. Say, what do you love about the school now? Or give me one example of your child feeling better about their experience, like 2 successes and a challenge. Like, seek it out, and then it pours back into you. So then you can be refreshed and recharged and be your best. Because folks, you can't lead and empower a school if you're not feeling like you're making a difference. And then when your staff sees that and leading with joy, like I have joy being here. When I walk into the building, I tell my people all the time, I'm like, I have the best job in the world. And when Martin says, "Come see me in this high school," Mike, you say, "Come down to Leesburg." I'm walking in with saying, let's get fired up. I mean, this is a get to, not a have to.
100%.
Oh, I'm not going to say great question because I wrote it. What I would say, yeah. So perfect example, and I think we just had convocation here at the university where we celebrated another year, and out of 17,000 students, one or two are picked just to share their story, and two students um, were the guest speakers, and they said this working with our leadership institute and working with the programming and the classes and the experience of developing them as leaders changed their life and made them see their own greatness. And I don't get choked up other than seeing my kids play sports every once in a while, but I don't get choked up often. But when that happens, my staff is like, "You okay? You have allergies?" So for me, I think that I want to be known as someone who empowered others to find their own greatness. And once they did that, their life took on a whole new path. It's almost like the sculptor that sees a statue within a big block of marble. Like it's so empowering and so rewarding to see, oh yeah, I allowed Martin to see the amazing principle that I knew he had it in him. He just didn't know it. He didn't realize it because of the context, and he was waiting for validation from someone else. But once he saw it, and look what happens. So when he texted me and said, "Hey, we're in A school now," I'm like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. It's almost like the Marvel movies with the superhero always wins. You know the ending of the story. Okay, that's what's so fun about this. So I think that's what I love to be remembered by.
Perfect.
Now,
Mike,
what
you have
about
any
you guys?
questions?
I want to throw it back to you. What's
All
your
right.
legacy going to be? What's your retirement on principal of the year honor going to be focused on?
Go ahead, Mike. You go first.
Awesome.
So that's funny you mentioned that because it goes back to me to when I was a bannerman. That was a school that it was. I'm just going to keep it real. They treated kids like they were prisoners, and that's not how life works. Everyone has an opportunity. So for me, hopefully when I hang it up, if I had to hang up now, I'd say that everyone's got a shot. That bannerman, we gave everybody a shot. We gave those kids. We took on like everyone's doing good things, so we did that there, and it was great. I got to go there yesterday for a meeting, and I went into Elevation Academy, which we started, and Kim Dubus is still there. She showed her big binder of all the kids that she's working with, and it was like that kind of took a second. I had my little parking lot moment where I took a second. I was like, you know what? Left and the work continued. There were good people doing the work. So you find those people that are capable of good things, and you empower them, and they do that. So that's kind of like for me is just empowering students, empowering adults, and then hopefully like for Middleburg, it had never been an A school for besides one other time. So now we're an A school. It doesn't define us, but it's certainly, that's a community that is now like those kids are proud. We don't go to we're not homecoming for every school we go to for football. We're not the hick out, which is a real thing. Like you go to and it's a hick out. Like that's not, it's a growing area, growing community, and it's home now. I never thought I'd be at Middleburg, but that's my home. And wherever I'm at, that's home. And that's how you want your people to be inspired. You want your kids to be inspired, and you want to just grow and lead. I hope I don't have a building named after me. It usually means you're dead, but that's kind of it. Like I think that's just yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, just real quick with Martin, another way to show your impact as principals, one of my mentors, Muriel Summers, who was a three-time National Principal of the Year out of A.B. Combs in Raleigh, North Carolina, said that another way to show your impact is check out real estate values around your school. And Martin, just that alone, you should just walk in with Zillow, posted on the big screen when you have your meetings with families and stakeholders. Just say, all right, drop the mic moment. So those little things, when people want to move to your school and move to your region so they can attend your school, property values increase, and that's another great sign. So Celebrate.
Got to give credit to the government on that too. But you know.
No, listen, it's no, just take it all in.
Appreciate it. 100%. Appreciate it. And Dr. Olson, I appreciate you. Nah, hey, listen, I owe a lot to Dr. Olson, really do. I was at a point in my career, I was ready to go sell shoes, and thankfully it didn't happen. So thank you.
I thank you so much, Martin. I appreciate it. And if anyone who's watching this or listening to this is at that point that Mike and Martin were talking about, where you've lost your joy, you need, someone in your life, feel free to reach out. I love doing this work, and even a phone call. I'm here for folks because I want to see great school leaders, realize their strengths, talents, and their gifts, and so they can pour into their school and do great things. So,
where can people
Mike,
follow you on social media?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all that good stuff. I only post positive things, so no negativity. Let's see, I think it's under Dr. Matthew Olson. And Matthew Olson 1, just find me, just do a search for me. I'll love to follow people. I love to hear about your success stories. And that's a fun part of my job, because what's so great about this is once you start focusing on the positive, the joy in your work and the good things and the impact, it's going to really change the way you lead on a daily basis. So, gentlemen, this has been so much fun, and so happy to be part of it.
Absolutely. We're going to have to do it again too. Broncos, and stay safe out there when this thing airs tomorrow on the 26th. Everybody stay safe.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Appreciate you.